up though? Here are the top 5 secrets to improve all of your landings instantly, because we want our landings nice and soft. Soft like a baddie laying on a goose down pillowcase, petting some baby kittens. Here's how to get them things nice and soft. Boom! Landings can be one of the most challenging aspects of becoming a pilot, and even after you become a pilot, they're not all going to be perfect each and every time, but they are 5 secrets that you can master. These secrets, then you can guarantee yourself or pretty much having a nice and smooth, soft landing each and every time. We're going to get into each of those aspects, and you can make it part of your repertoire to running them things and running that mental checklist each and every time you get ready to land an aircraft, and you're sure to have a very safe and smooth landing. Let's get into that thing. Numero uno, the number 1 secret to improving your landings instantly is thinking about the setup. The setup is the most important aspect of any landing. And the setup doesn't start when you're on final. You don't wait until you get on final and then start adjusting everything all willy-nilly. You should be adjusting things and setting up things the second you enter the traffic pattern. That's when your setup has already started for your landing. The positioning you're in, the altitude that you're in. So you're already thinking about these things here. The more you adjust in the beginning, the less you have to adjust at the end of the landing. So you don't want to wait. You don't want to procrastinate as a pilot. You always want to be ahead of the aircraft. And one of the ways of being ahead of the aircraft is always anticipating your landings and setting up perfectly each and every time. Prepare, set yourself up for success. So think about when you're entering that traffic pattern. If you're entering that thing at a 45-degree angle, what altitude are you currently at? If you're already entering that traffic pattern high, then you're already starting off in a bad place. If you're entering it too low, you're already starting off at a bad place. You want to enter at the perfect altitude. You also want to check your distance from the runway. You don't want to be too wide and too far away from it, and you don't want to be right on top of it either. You want to have the appropriate spacing from the runway as well. So you want to make sure you have that altitude right. You want to make sure you have that spacing right from the runway. You want to make sure, obviously, you're looking for other traffic that may be in the area. All these things are perfecting your setup. You're at the right air speeds, and these are the key things that you want to think about that you're doing on setup. The more that you can set up in the very beginning, the less you would have to set up in the middle of the landing and at the end of the landing. Do all the work in the heavy lifting at the beginning. That's step numero uno and one of the secrets to having a smooth landing each and every time. Hey, boom! Numero dos are some of the top secrets that you must know to help improve your landings each and every time. Once you got the setup on lockdown, number 2 on the list is airspeed. But here's the secret and the key with airspeed. It isn't just about the airspeed on final that you want to land the aircraft on. You want to have designated airspeeds for each leg of the landing. So let's just say you're doing a normal landing and you looked inside your POH, the Pilot Operating Handbook. You swinging and banging that thing. You know exactly what your airspeed should be for a normal landing in your aircraft. So you got that perfected. But that's just the airspeed that you want to have that thing sitting at on final. What do you want to do for your downwind? What do you want to do for your base leg? You should have air speeds designated in your mind for those legs of the landing as well, because that's going to help you gradually get to where you need to get to for that final airspeed. You don't want to be jerking the airplane around trying to find the airspeed that you're looking for. No jerking, let the plane do the working. And the way you let the plane do the working is, on setup, you already have designated airspeeds for each of the legs. For example, let's just say your normal landing airspeed that you want to be at for the aircraft, you'd already check your POH, everything. Let's just say it's 60 knots. Then if that's what it's going to be on final, then think to yourself, what airspeed do you want to be at on base? Which airspeed do you want to be at on your downwind? You want to gradually bring those airspeeds down. So let's just say you have airspeed 80, 75 on your downwind, and then you drop that thing down to more like 70 or 65 on your base leg, and then you gradually bring it down to 60 on final. You're gradually slowing down the aircraft on each of the legs. That's exactly what you want to be doing versus like you weren't even paying attention to airspeed. You were just paying attention to other things on downwind and final, and then all of a sudden you try to jerk the aircraft and put it in all a certain configuration when you're on final to get to the right airspeed. That's how you can end up too fast, too slow, too high, too low, all those things. Starting with that setup and having designated airspeeds in your aircraft for each leg of the landing. And then when you're on final, it's going to gradually find the right airspeed because you've gradually been having those designated airspeeds for each other leg, and everything is going to be everything. Numero 3 for the top secrets that will improve all of your landings instantly. You want to make sure that you're anticipating. And when I say that word anticipate, you want to anticipate in more ways than one. You always want to be ahead of the aircraft, so you should always be anticipating for every scenario. But you want to be thinking about various scenarios on your landing if you're asked to do something differently. More than likely, particularly if you're at most airports, you're never going to have that smooth, nice, square box landing with everything that you do. It's always going to be traffic around. You may be asked to extend the downwind. You may be asked to do turn base sooner than what maybe you anticipated it being. But if you're always ahead of the aircraft, you're always thinking about these things, then you can always make the mental adjustments and there'll never be that much of a surprise. If you were getting ready to put in your normal degree of flaps that you put in on your downwind, but then you were all of a sudden asked to extend the downwind, you don't know how long you may be asked to extend that downwind. So obviously you're going to anticipate stay ahead, and you're not going to touch those flaps until maybe you further down the line and you've gotten a call to now you can turn that base leg and now you can do something. So maybe you're going to be putting them in later than what you normally would be, and you're going to be adjusting those air speeds later than what you normally would be. So never think about, oh, this is how I do my landings when I'm just in the pattern and I'm just going through my regular little thing. But it's not always going to be like that. That's like the perfect scenario. There's no traffic out, everything's nice and good. More than likely, everything's going to be a lot more chaotic than that, but it's going to be organized chaos. And one of your jobs is to handle that organized chaos as pilot in command. So you always want to be anticipating, hey, you're number 2, you're number 3, extend the downwind, turn base now, do whatever you got to do. But you always anticipating those things, and you're going to adjust and configure the airplane accordingly and based on the timing that you're being given, dictated by the situation, all because you anticipated and you didn't just jump ahead of yourself or do something as a normal muscle memory routine. You waited, you anticipated, and you were ready for any and everything in the sky. Let go! Numero 4 of the top 5 secrets that will improve all of your landings instantly. You want to trust your eyes. You want to know how to use your eyes and trust your eyes. They can be very deceiving at times, particularly if you land in that thing at night. Oh, the ground is coming up all quickly. But trust your eyes. Trust your eyes. They've adjusted themselves, whether you're using your rods, your cones. Hey, if you want a review of what part of your eyes do you use, your rods, your cones, all that good stuff, videos on this channel, over 100 of them things talking about all that good stuff. Watch the playlist in its entirety, and it can help you get through anything you're trying to get through, whether it's the written, whether it's the check ride, all that good stuff. Run it. But trust your eyes. That's one of the secrets that you want to remember in numero 4, meaning this. Trust your peripheral vision in everything that you're looking for. Trust your vision to search for and find other aircraft. And when you're on final, trust your vision when it's telling you you're too high, you're too low. Don't second guess yourself. If you look at it and you say, I think I'm too high, but you haven't done anything to adjust the altitude, then that lets you know that you're not really trusting your eyes versus like, immediately as you start thinking that you're too high, you already adjusted. Maybe you pull the power out a little bit, adjust some altitude. You do other things, configure the aircraft to make sure you get yourself in the right position. But you're trusting yourself. The decision has already been made in your mind, so you need to execute that with your actions. That's trusting your eyes. Too high, you're too low, you're too fast, you're too slow. Trust your eyes. When you're coming down the runway and you looking down the runway at itself, again, trust your eyes. Did you put in that thing? You sitting that thing down nice and soft. Don't get wobbly. Don't try to not trust your eyes and think the ground's moving up too fast. It's moving up at a nice, smooth place. Looking at your instruments, looking down the runway. Looking at your instruments, looking down the runway. Trust your eyes and react to that. Boom! Numero 5 of the top 5 secrets that can improve your landings instantly. It's one of my personal favorites. You want to make sure you ride ground effect, baby. You want to put that thing in ground effect and ride it out. Ground effect is probably one of the most efficient ways that you can fly, particularly when you're coming out on takeoff as well as when you're landing an aircraft. So ride ground effect, enjoy ground effect. It's a very efficient way to fly, and most importantly, it puts you in a nice position where you can let the airplane tell you when it wants to land. You're flying, you creeping and crawling that thing low to the earth, riding that thing along the runway, and just let it gradually come down. Let it lose that energy. It's all about transfer of energy. You're slowing the aircraft down. You're doing everything. You did the setup. You follow your airspeeds. Everything's looking beautiful. You're trusting your eyes. You're looking at your instruments. You're looking outside the aircraft. You're anticipating. You're doing everything you should be doing. If you're doing all those top 5 secrets, then that 5th one, let that thing do what it do when it's in ground effect, baby. We in ground effect, baby. We in ground effect. Just ride that thing out and let it tell you when it wants to stop flying and gradually lay itself down on the runway, nice and soft. Something really great to practice, particularly if you're dealing with an extended runway. You have enough runway, so utilize that runway, particularly in the beginning when you're just landing the aircraft. You don't have to try and do everything so precise in the very beginning. You just want to make sure your mechanics are good, that everything's in a good order. You have that real estate at your disposal, so utilize that. And as you start to get that muscle memory down, and as you start to get more familiar and comfortable, then you're going to notice that that real estate is going to start to shorten and shorten and shorten and shorten, and then you're going to be dropping that thing then down on the numbers, and doing exactly what you need to do to make it happen for you. Hey, I am Donovan Batiste. Hey, this is Leadership Mindset, a place where you can come for free and fun videos about everything that you need to know for you to become a pilot. Because I want you to feel what pilots all over the world feel when we swinging and banging that thing. Hey, subscribe to this channel one time. Love you one time.